Welcome to this series of readings of the Mechanization concept, a manifesto by the Great Divine Director. There are 22 parts to these releases by the Great Divine Director. He has asked that they be read in the order of their release. I am Caroline Hansky, the reader. The teachings were given by the Great Divine Director through the messenger Mark L. Prophet in 1965. Permission was granted for reading them and making them available to the general public in audio form. These readings are from Mark and Elizabeth Prophet, The Mechanization Concept, The Mysteries of God on the Creation of Mechanized Man, Pearls of Wisdom, Volume 8, Teachings of the Ascended Masters, Summit University Press, copyright Church Universal and Triumphant, 1965. They are also published as Mark L. Prophet, the Soulless One, Cloning a Counterfeit Creation, copyright 1965, 1980, 1981, Summit University Press. Why would you want to listen to and or read these releases? Because the message in them is as important now, or even more so, as when it was originally delivered. The message is serious and ought to be taken seriously. The mechanical, non-human creation, not created by God ones, are among us, and have been for thousands of years. We have taken on their consciousness to some degree and must free ourselves from it. Prayer and working on our psychology are two ways of doing this. But first we must be aware of what the mechanical consciousness is. These releases by the Great Divine Director are for this purpose. What makes this so relevant at this time? If you are following the news of the development of robots for every conceivable purpose, then is it not curious that this is made to seem a new development? As these current robots are portrayed, they are obviously mechanical. Yet, just as obvious from the Great Divine Director teachings is the fact that the robots that have been on the earth for thousands of years appear like humans. We don't know the difference. Then why is it important to make us think this is a new advanced development? Something to ponder. The Great Divine Director is a cosmic being with many offices in the spiritual hierarchy. For example, he is a member of the karmic board in which he represents the first ray of God power. He is known as the Great Divine Director because he has merged his consciousness with the cosmic cycles of God's divine plan for untold universes of light. Great Divine Director is a title of an office in the cosmic hierarchy, given to the one who, by virtue of diligent application over the eons, focuses within his causal body the formula of the ascension for the children of God and the sons and daughters of the Most High evolving in this cosmos. The causal body is the spiritual part of us in which is stored our attainment, all merit we have ever accrued, our treasures stored in heaven. The Great Divine Director's causal body is a giant blue sphere that surrounds the entire planet. Thus his attainment of cosmic consciousness qualifies him to ensoul the flame of divine direction on behalf of Earth's evolutions and untold lifeways beyond. The Great Divine Director long ago passed those initiations that placed him at cosmic levels of service and qualified him to become the Manu of the seventh root race. A Manu embodies the archetype for an entire life wave of souls who will incarnate on Earth at a certain period, including the divine image and likeness out of which they are made and the pattern of their destiny. The seventh root race is destined to embody first in South America under the Great Divine Director, and so he presides spiritually over the continent of South America. He is then the lawgiver and sponsor of the seventh root race, the one who holds the blueprint for the entire race of the souls who begin their embodiment in the age of Aquarius that is now dawning. Godfrey Ray King, author of the book, The Magic Presence, describes the Great Divine Director in it. This majestic being stood fully 6 feet 4 inches in height, with wavy hair that fell to his shoulders and looked like sunshine on gold. His robes glittered with points of light like jewels that flashed continually with the tremendous radiance of the power held under his control and obedient to his conscious direction. The girdle encircling his waist was a mass of sapphires and diamonds. From it hung a panel to a few inches below the knees. This also was a mass of jewels. End of quote. The great divine director has said, I pray that you will call to me, for I have within my consciousness the scroll of the divine plan for every living soul on Terra and in the vast beyond. The Mechanization Concept, a manifesto by the great divine director, Part P, Power. To souls of God who would establish the power of God that shall free men from evil conditions, I teach the fundamental truth that you must first establish in yourself the desire for truth, when all around you prefer the lie, and then call to God for the power to know and discern truth, and for the boldness to uphold it. Now let us examine the means of releasing the power of God so as to effectively correct, mend, and heal the problems of the hour. As parched ground thirstily drinks in the refreshing rains, so mankind shall drink the draught of living truth, as the power to make them free. However, the Master Jesus said, men loved darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. Yet he also declared that his sheep would know his voice and follow him in the regeneration. Now it is the mere mechanical sense of generation that men have come to accept the artifacts of civilization as an acceptable reality, and it is by that same mortal sense that they have often questioned and even doubted the existence of that which is invisible to their human senses, or shall we say, to their human non-senses. It is our hope that the concept that only the earth is important will soon fade from the planet, for among the myriad shining worlds afar are histories innumerable of beings both gentle and kind, and of those who have run the gamut of human expression elsewhere, in faded and even contemporary evolutions of the time span. In time to come, these histories will offer men great object lessons, for they will see their own mistakes and accomplishments mirrored in them. It has not been our desire in the past to acquaint mankind with all of the far-reaching areas of the cosmos, for no particular worthy purpose would have been thus served, since mankind have refused to learn even from the lessons afforded them on Earth. But at this stage in the evolution of the planet Earth, it is important that the avant-garde and those who sincerely desire to serve the cause of spiritual illumination and upliftment for the planet do understand certain points of universal doctrine in a correct and proper manner. We have, therefore, caused this series to be issued, so that while mankind may be made aware, as many already know, that God did not create evil, nor does he condone it, as his law so clearly proves, he further does not conceive of it or hold any level of awareness of it within the Godhead. For the mind of God is absolutely pure, it is the Absolute. The mind of God is perfect, for it is perfection, and this is Holy Writ. Thou art of purer eyes than to behold evil, and canst not look on iniquity. In the evolutionary ladder, even the spiritual evolutionary ladder, wherever there remains one jot or tittle of personal, world, or even systemic karma, which refers to the planetary chain, mankind must understand that imperfection is yet manifesting. Perfection always brings into balance the complete wholeness of man. Nevertheless, one of the greatest mysteries to mankind has been the matter of whether or not evil does have reality. May I frankly say to all that there are areas where understanding is lacking on the part of even the very advanced, for the education of man has been undertaken somewhat by those whom we may term nursemaids. These precious, dedicated individuals have given to the best of their ability, but much that they have imparted stems from their personal understanding of the law, which both includes and transcends that personal understanding. Quite naturally, then, limitation surrounds their release, and yet it is far more excellent than the darkness of ignorance. Now evil is only real to the consciousness which entertaineth it, as beloved Paul wrote to Titus, "Unto the pure all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure, but even their mind and consciousness is defiled." By entertaining the stranger that is within thy gates, the Holy Christ's self, thou, O man, art lifted to the consciousness of God, wherein thou too shalt realize that there is no permanent reality in aught but perfection. Thus the Christ cometh to all as the great exemplar of all holiness, the mediator betwixt light and darkness, between the human and the divine, lighting the way for a benighted generation until it is regenerated in newness of soul, where there is no cause, effect, record, or memory of any qualitative substance, thought, or manifestation that is less than perfection. So is the kingdom of God brought about upon earth, through the acknowledgement and demonstration of this law, this truth. St. Paul also declared, "We know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away." Men call for illumination, and they know not what they ask. For if the whole truth were revealed, it would be shattering to the psyche of mankind. All human concepts must bow down before the mighty flame of truth itself, which exalteth the soul of God, and wrests the plodding sense from the folly of delusion. Now, then, let us consider the power of advanced truth, framed within the perspective of man's understanding and acceptability. We do not set up a hurdle for mankind that is so high they cannot jump over it. We ask them to take in stride, in a reasonable manner, all that has been revealed, and all that will be revealed, in accordance with their capacity to assimilate and to integrate new factors into the human psyche in such a manner as to result in more perfect action. It is not fitting, heaven has decreed it so, that because of the lameness and haltness of some, the entire planet should be held back. Therefore, through the years of the past, stretching back to the beginning of civilization, certain advanced souls have ever been lifted into the freedom of their ascension in the light. In a like manner as Jesus did from Bethany's hill, they too have risen into the glory of God. Mankind have said many times that truth is stranger than fiction, and it is no fantasy that some of the individuals who have disappeared from the face of the earth are those who are being taken while others are left. These remain as part of the world's struggle, just as the ones who are taken do find their infinite freedom. Skepticism, doubt, and mistrust have continually surrounded the advanced, and little recognition has been paid to those who are truly great in the eyes of God. The world, then, in its limited discernment and its clamorings and criticisms, has often failed to recognize the greatest souls, and thus it does occur that often these blessed ones are deemed far less than they deserve by mankind, as men seek to explode that virtue which they consider but a myth. Even so, when the truth is finally known, men will acknowledge that there is none good but one, that is, God. No, not one, as Jesus affirmed of old. Precious ones, supposing that right now you were sitting where I sit, how would you go about raising the understanding of mankind? What would you do to jar them from their lethargies? Would you perhaps perform miracles, believing that such action would engender faith? Let me cite for you the record, precious ones, on this matter, and I shall speak also from experience. It is a known fact that which mankind see and perceive clearly with the senses is often discounted with the passing of a few hours. Likewise, men's sense of the wondrous and the miraculous fades quickly. Thus, illusion is the word used by them in many cases to describe reality and truth, whereas fact is the word used to describe the data compiled from mechanical experience, which at best has only a temporary reality in the infinite cycles of existence. It may help, then, if I tell you that one of the greatest problems mankind has today is their need to create laws within their own force field, describing both natural phenomena and the patterns of society. These laws all too often oppose the natural laws of the universe and the purity of the divine expression. I do not say that if men were certain that they were opposing the light, that they would continue to do so, but it is the cloak of their uncertainty that seems to give them license to set up and establish a way which seemeth right unto them, but the end thereof are the ways of death. The death which I herein refer to is the death of the individual's opportunity to expand his greater soul consciousness. This death is imposed upon man more by the evils of a mechanized civilization than it is by individual abuse of the law. For men are born into an environment which at the onset would stifle the very breath of the Holy Spirit, which infuses them with life, if it were not for the guardian angels and all who serve to keep the flame of God blazing upon this darkened star. Those who love the world and the things that are of the world, being enamored by the illusions thereof, seem unable to grasp the higher law. And this perhaps is self-inflicted punishment, for it is never the will of God to punish, even for evil deeds, seeing God does not hold awareness of evil. This point has always confused some who note in the ancient writings that God admonishes men to eschew evil and thunders from the mountain heights against those evildoers among mankind. Precious ones, all life is God, that is to say, the core of all life is God. But around the core of expression has been woven the unnatural creation, influenced by subtle forces which have caused the departure from the original divine intent. It is in the garments surrounding the being of man, then, the dress of mankind, and I refer not to physical costume, but to the erroneous concepts and ideas with which men clothe themselves, that truth is so drably presented. The best gifts of life are often tossed into the garbage, while the most hideous and undeserving ideas are enthroned by erring mankind under the guise of intellectualism and existentialism, popularized by Jean-Paul Sartre, Ayn Rand, and the like. Inasmuch as the world itself and the world mood have become a battleground for conflicting ideologies, discrimination in a right sense, a sense of righteousness, must be perceived by progressive mankind as being most desirable. It has been well recorded, "Ask, and ye shall receive." Therefore we believe, in order to establish the power of God that shall free man from evil conditions, that he must first establish the desire for truth, and then call to God for the power to know and to discern what is truth. Finding bit by bit the pieces of regeneration, he must interlock them within the very areas of his thought and feeling world, until the Christ image reinforces the sagging vigor of the human psyche. When the latent Christ image is developed in all its magnificent power, mankind can then safely touch to the torch the vestige of human creation. A shabby garment he no longer requires. It must be understood by men that there is a personal, individual action taking place within themselves with which none can meddle or interfere, in addition to the outer schema of world problems with which all mankind should cope in one or more of its phases. The world is conquered through divisive forces, and in order to secure division, the forces of negation drive into human personality a spearhead of thought and feeling which is oppositional in nature. The wealth of anathemas with which most individuals upon the planet surround themselves are in reality the thorns of life which pierce the soul and drain the vital energies of God from the reservoir of each person, consuming the collective measure of power in senseless aberrations. Now, if it seem that I intend here to offend some who are not willing to accept my instruction as valid, it is not so. I stand on freedom's truth, yet make no claims to bind the hasty or impatient who cannot tarry to be taught anew. We nurture wholeness of soul. Never in all eternity can mankind alter spiritual law or the law of love or universal fact by denial or rejection. It took boldness on my part when I was embodied upon the earth planet. It took boldness on the part of your Saint Germain in the multitude of experiences he had prior to his ascension to uphold freedom. And I will deceive you not. it will take boldness on your part to make progress in these times. I acknowledge you can be content in your present range of thought and experience, and perhaps make but little karma to add to the weight already established. I admit that you can transmute some of that, a great deal of it in fact, through proper use of the violet flame and the power of sacred decrees. I acknowledge that you can still the mind to receive greater inspiration from on high by proper techniques of meditation, where the consciousness ever holds its awareness of God and the mind is not left blank. But, precious ones, in the realm of cosmic opportunity, and to satisfy the crying demands of life upon the planetary body this hour, nothing will genuinely fulfill the law of the inner man except the remedying of the gross and sinister conditions which presently threaten the very existence of the planet itself. These conditions will not suddenly become more correctable because someone wishes it to be so. There are certain steps that must be taken. For truth and understanding are not mechanical, they are creative. And it is by the power of God that all life has been established. It is by the power of men give to error that life has been corrupted. And it is by the power of truth and the nobility of effort that men shall invoke the purifying power from on high that shall heal the world and all of its current unrest and disturbance. It is interesting to note that a child, as he passed by a forest on the way to school, noticed a very small and insignificant tree, no more than a foot high. He was positive of its existence and carefully marked the spot in his own mind. Returning at the close of the day's session, he noticed a towering giant of a tree, which appeared to be several hundred years old, standing in its place. As the tall cedars of Lebanon rise to touch the hem of heaven's garb, so the building of the temple of God will magnetize the leaves of spiritual growth. Moreover, when that growth is nurtured and desired, you will, like the boy who passed by the forest, see miracles brought about in a day. There are some few who will turn from beloved Moria's green tree at the beginning of its day, and ere the sun shall set upon them, they will see that it points the way on high, and shall be in their absence that the growth will occur. I am the tree of life that stands so tall. With what measure would ye measure it all? Relativity that shrinks not from the joy of truth, but by inward perception seeks the peace of proof. I am thy stature, rising bold upon the background of universal framework old, defending inward strength, the power to overcome. I am the root, the vine, the branches one, divinely blessed, a spire rising to the blue, drenched with golden celestial fire hue. Forge ahead then, precious ones, in generating a momentum of faith that refuses every appearance that is less than perfection. I do not care if I must needs repeat my words again and again, for I know that as you in faith absorb these words and contemplate the face of God, His perfection will descend upon you, and the world and all of its cycles and its wonders will overcome the sinister desire of mankind to plunder the treasures of life that lie all around them. I know the abundant sense of God's grace will alter old concepts, and those who can see the need to consume the dross will have no sense of mortal loss in whatever must transpire, but will see, and seeing inwardly perceive, that justice must the pain of life relieve, and grant a new and holy concept unto all, a lifting of the shrouded mortal pall, till the holy light of God shines o'er all mankind, and the earth it is the Lord's, the fullness all, is so acknowledged by every tongue. The snares of the wicked verily will the righteous escape, as they kneel before God and take their hands, signifying action, and plunge them into the lave of God's will for purity in action. Feeling they may disturb the water's calm reflection, and the old image will fade and atom die. But Christ within their humble hearts will shape his flame, as in the fiery furnace old. His image then will royally appear within the fragrant pool of life, where roses pour their sweet perfume. The second coming of the Christ will fill the earthly room, and break the deadly silence of the tomb, the vault of mortal past, as rainbow rays and heavenly joy surround each heart. at last, with grace, a trembling in the cup of life, and anxious then, as now, to honor Son of God, their hands reach up in hope to accents fair. Thou art my Son, this day have I begotten thee. A cry resounding down the universal hall, resounding with a joyful call. My Father, I am home. To God the glory I am, the great divine director.